What the fuck? When I was 19, I thought I was pretty good at guitar, but I wasn't. And if I was to compete with your average guitar player on Instagram or TikTok nowadays, I would have gotten absolutely smoked. And that's not because this generation has less soul or is completely robotic or fakes everything. It's because the bar is just higher, way higher. When I was growing up, you were stuck with whoever happened to live in your town as a guitar teacher. And if they sucked, you were out of luck. Now a kid can study picking mechanics from one player, rhythm from another, phrasing from another, and watch it all in slow motion on YouTube. At the same time, this generation grew up listening to hyper-edited records without realizing what was studio magic and what wasn't. So that level of tightness became their baseline. They set the bar to something impossible and then practiced until it wasn't. For those who don't know me, I'm Eyal Levi, CEO of URM Academy. I've been a producer and guitarist in my band Doth since 1999, and I've watched the technical skill level in heavy music change in a very real way. People now are just objectively better at playing, recording, understanding music, and with the exception of the top tier from the past, they're even better at writing. I mean, your local bands now are way better than the local bands of the past. So today I'm going to react to some guitar players on TikTok and Instagram, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. All right, let's start with Manuel Gardner Fernandez from the band Unprocessed. Here goes. That is crazy, and not just because of the tremolo picking. The tremolo picking is actually really, really intense. I mean, playing that on clean or semi-clean and just sustaining it for that long, that percussive, that is an intense picking hand. I mean, if you listen, if you play guitar, why don't you try playing something like that on this kind of tone and see if it sounds this percussive, and then see how long you can sustain it for. I doubt it's going to be this long, and if you can, more power to you. But he's not just a one-trick pony. As it keeps going, he throws in lots of other techniques. Like there's some hybrid picking, looks like there's some really fast funk style picking, really, really good chord voicings. Just like overall, really, really great guitar player. And what's cool to me is you can't really fuck around with clean tones. It's just way harder to fake that stuff because you're so exposed. Almost always when you have a really good sounding clean player, you know it's real because it's just so hard to fake that stuff. Yeah, he's even got a hair shred in there as well. You can see from that, just that one little moment, that his legato is super on point. All right, let's move on. We're going to check out Rafael Trujillo. He is in a band with me, so yeah, I'm kind of biased. But the reason that I even know who he is because I was looking for the sickest possible guitar players on the planet, and I came across Rafael. He's probably the strongest alternate picker I've ever met in my entire life. Let's check this out. All right. That's crazy because it's so accurate and it's so percussive and it's played so hard and so fast at the same time. What he's doing right here is basically bursts or fragments. He taught me this method for building speed, and it's a really, really good one. Instead of trying to play really, really long passages and increasing the BPM like by one every single day. You break it down into little bite-sized pieces, and you get it as close as possible to the actual tempo. So if you can only fragment or burst like 3 notes from the pattern, then you just play those 3 notes, but you get them perfect. Then you add another note, then you burst 4 notes, then you do 5, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It sounds like it would take a long time. By the time you have 5, 6, or 7 notes in your fragments, you can suddenly start to play much longer pieces. So what he's doing right now is just an exercise for developing that, but the level that he's playing it at is just wild. I'm sure you're all already familiar with Tim Henson, but I wouldn't be able to do this without mentioning him because he basically spawned an entire genre of guitar players. And I think what's special about him is the way that he combines styles, the way he takes stuff from fusion, from rap, from pop, from metal, and puts it together in this really, really weird, clean style of playing that just works really well. I've thought that Polyphia is way bigger than an instrumental band should be. At least when I was growing up, instrumental virtuoso bands never really got big. Like, they wouldn't have, if Instagram existed, they wouldn't have like 1 million followers. Like, I think that these guys are so musical and they pull in so many, I guess, cool elements from other styles. Somehow their instrumental music seems to transcend and hit a larger audience. Anyways, let's check out his playing. What is he doing? That looks... Okay, that is some really, really cool hybrid picking. Maybe you'll notice something in common with Raphael and Manuel. These players are very percussive. Their sense of rhythm is great. They attack the guitar. They really play hard. That is very tasteful. That's so well executed, so well phrased. It's such a good note choice. It just works so perfectly in the context of everything that's going on. It's not only well played, but it's also well put together and well written. Also, shredding on an acoustic is not an easy feat. I'm curious if he's using hybrid picking the whole time or if he's alternate picking those runs. Let's see. So it seems like he's switching between hybrid picking and alternate picking. Hybrid picking is this interesting technique because it used to be just on the fringes. Only really niche guitar players or guitar players in, like, you know, the country and bluegrass world would play it, or like maybe Steve Morse was good at it. But it wasn't the mainstream for metal or metal adjacent shredders. But I think that nowadays it is, and in big part because of Tim Henson. Now lots of people know how to hybrid pick thanks to him. All right, Jason Richardson. I think of him as kind of like the first real internet shredder. I first heard about him when he was like 17 or 18, and he's been kind of growing his following since then. He's been in a bunch of well-known bands, and he's also had his own solo career in parallel with that. And his solo career as a guitar player is another one of those careers that is kind of stunning if you realize that he just tours by himself and sometimes with the drummer. He's a lot better known than you would expect a guitar player to get. And he's such a great writer, great player, great arranger, really good at recording, and he can play anything. All right, let's check this out. Okay, so this is his cover of John Williams' Hedwig theme from Harry Potter. I remember when he was covering this, he sent me some of it while he was working on it, and I remember him telling me that this stuff is way harder, way harder than it sounds, because it wasn't written for guitar. So it's already crazy in terms of tempo and phrasing, but it's arranged for other instruments. So it's no choices that don't just fall naturally on the guitar. And so whenever you take something from another instrument, if you want to do a guitar arrangement, one of the first challenges that you're going to have is where to place it on the fretboard for maximum efficiency, playability, and also tone, because guitar is laid out in a very unique and stupid way compared to just about every other instrument. Therefore, some things that might be totally normal for an average player to do, like on the piano, like crazy fast arpeggios, are actually something that virtuosos on guitar do. Average guitar players aren't that good at that kind of stuff. And it's because of how the instruments are laid out. With piano, the notes only happen one time. On guitar, you have an average of 6 different ways you can play each note. So it's confusing and you have to make choices. His tone is great. One of the things that he really stands out for is his alternate picking and string skipping. And he's doing that all over the place. And you can really tell once the distortion kicks in. But he's just super, super clean with that stuff. And it's part of this style that he's been building since he was a teenager. So speaking of transposing something from one instrument to another, we're going to check out somebody who's from a totally different world than anyone we checked out already. It's a dude named Josh Meter. He's an Australian guitar player. He's definitely more on the fusion jazz side of things, not a metal player, but still incredible. This is him playing an arrangement of a Debussy piano piece on guitar. So a few things. First of all, this reminds me of some of the clean tracks that you would hear on Marty Friedman's solo albums. This sounds so good. It's so fluid and peaceful sounding. And like I was saying earlier, clean tones like this, you cannot fake that shit because there's just no way to get around. You have to play it right because you're exposed. There's nothing to hide behind. And listen to how smooth his playing of this is. Usually when guitar players start playing chord changes like that and clean stuff of this style, you'll hear a lot of bullshit that comes with it, like squeaks and pick hitting the string in different ways. So you hear like chirp from the pick and all kinds of little artifacts. And in some ways, those are cool because you know somebody played it. If you hear a squeak, you know it's a human. But I have learned how to fake those things too. Like I know how you can fake squeaks. So just because you hear a squeak doesn't mean shit. I appreciate that there's none right here because to actually play that takes a lot more work. And you have to really, really be good at switching chords and making sure that you're not playing anything extra. Actually, someone who's really, really great at that is Mike Stringer from Spirit Box. He is an expert at No added bullshit noise, no added artifacts when changing chords. It doesn't matter if it's a simple riff. Super, super clean in the way he plays. And it's the same with Josh Meter here, too. His playing is insanely clean and smooth. Check out his right hand and the way that he uses hybrid picking along with alternate picking. It's really interesting. His pick angle, like I can't tell if he's rotating his thumbs. I see a little bit of rotation, but it looks like the pick is straight onto the strings, which when you're playing metal, you're trying to get at an angle to cut the strings. Sometimes it can sound kind of weird if you just like hit flat onto the strings, but it seems to be working really, really great here. All right, so just in case you're thinking that this is all Instagram trickery and recording magic and these guys are all fake, let's check something out that absolutely cannot be fake. And it's Mr. Ian Way playing Stab Wound by Necrophagist at 300 BPM. Ian is in the band Surreption. Right now he's filling in for Chris Garza with Suicide Silence, and he's on tour somewhere in the world, and phenomenal, phenomenal player. I mean, that's like 60 BPM faster than the actual song, I think. I think the song is at 240, somewhere in that range. There are bands that are more technical than Necrophagist nowadays, but basically when they came out, they became the new standard or the bar for technical death metal. And I think that nowadays it's one of those things kind of like, if you can play Master of Puppets, you're a good down picker. And if you can play Stab Wound, you're good at tech death. And so playing Stab Wound at 300 BPM means you're fucking amazing at tech death. I've tried playing it. It's not easy. Check out how little he's moving. And those are string skips. Check out how much wrist he's using versus how much his arm is like moving up and down as he skips strings. It's fast. You can see there, he's doing this interesting rotation from the wrist. It seems like he's enabling his string skipping through that rotation more so than up and down movement. Super efficient. All right, Spiro Ducias. This kid is phenomenal. I remember when he only had 10,000 followers, and I came across his page. He would like respond to my stories sometimes, and I checked out his playing. I'm just so used to people sucking. There are a lot of great players. Obviously, I'm showing you a bunch of them. But, you know, when you're in my position, you get to hear a lot of people's stuff that gets sent to you, and not all of it's wonderful. Well, I always have my hopes high. I'm rarely ever blown the fuck away. And when I checked out Spiro's stuff for the first time, I had to kind of do a double take. It was like, is this actually what I think it is? Like, check this shit out. What the fuck? I don't even know what to say about his technique. It's like, if you're wondering about the bar being raised, if like you doubt it, then you just need to check out guitar players like Spiro to understand that the bar has been raised. I don't know anybody from my peer group or who was in the scene or that I even like came across at Berkeley or anywhere who was sounding like this. Now, there were great shredders back in the day, but this level of technique is very similar to the idea of the 4-minute mile, where for the longest time you did have fast runners, but it seemed like the 4-minute mile was impossible. And then somebody did it. And once somebody showed that it was possible, a bunch of other people started doing a sub 4-minute mile. And that's kind of how this is. This level of speed and precision is something that seemed impossible at one point in time. That would have seemed like studio trickery, but I know that it's not. I know that this is what the dude sounds like in real life. I've taken lessons from him and I've had him play on my records. Like, the dude's for real. It just is what it is. The bar now is higher than it used to be.
Just because somebody can do that doesn't mean they can't go. It's like walking up to a dude drinking a scotch, minding his own business, and you're like, "It's not a glass of water, though. Or wouldn't you rather have a glass of milk?" And he's like, "Fuck off, what are you talking about? Having a glass of scotch. It's not for you, dude."
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. This is age old also. Like, I have always heard people bagging on really good guitar players. That other guy can say with one note what this shredder can say with 100 notes, and that type of thing has always been said about the better players. But what I've noticed is that non-musical people exist at all technical skill levels. So you have non-musical people who have a really high level of technical skill, and those are those soulless robotic players that people are talking about. But you also have really musical people at a very high level of skill, and they end up being the best guitar players in the world. Now, you also have really musical people with very specific skills, like having great bends or great vibrato, but they're not like shredders or anything, but they're very musical and very talented. And so you hear them in, classic rock bands or whatever. You also hear them because they sound so good and their parts work so well. But you also have non-musical people at lower skill levels and they sound like shit. They just suck. Just because someone took the time to get really, really good at technique doesn't mean that they're a non-musical person. And personally, I think it's a cop-out. And it's a way for people to feel better about themselves when they haven't put in the work. All right, switching gears here. I just wanted to play something a little bit different just because I thought it was cool. This guy is named Taylor Dearman. I don't know much about him. I've come across his page a few times, and somehow I have found myself just like looping his reels because they sounded cool. So I like this idea. Warm-up exercises that don't sound terrible, because warm-up exercises sound terrible a lot of the time. All right, so that's what I mean when I say very musical. It might not be shredding, but you can usually tell from like the first few notes somebody plays that they're a really good player. The rhythm and the feel is perfect. The playing is smooth from note to note. The notes are confident. You're not hearing extra bullshit. It just feels good to listen to. You know this is a really, really good player. And it's cool that he's finding ways to take, I guess, rote mechanical playing and stuff that can get kind of boring and just make it musical so that people will actually do it. I think one of the big reasons for why people stop doing technical exercises is because a lot of them are very non-musical, very clinical, very boring, and people who are more creative sometimes might tune that shit out. So doing stuff like this where you find a way to make it better, to make it more of a pleasant experience, makes it more palatable to do the work, because you can't get around having to do the work. If you want to be awesome, you got to put in an awesome amount of time. All right, let's talk about Baxty. It's got a decent following, Bastian Martinez. I don't know much about him. I just know him through Instagram, really. And he's always posting these clips that are obviously real. And I'm going to show you exactly how you can tell. He's another one of these dudes, kind of like Spiro, that is very, very clear evidence for making the argument that the bar is raised. So check this out. All right, that sounds insane, but here's how you can tell it's real. And it's not because of the string noise and the room noise, though that's evidence. People can fake that and people will fake that. But I don't think that this is faked. I think this is the real deal. One of the reasons is that you can hear the quote unquote imperfections. They're not really imperfections. They're more just realities of string skipping like this. When you're going across strings, like when two notes are separated by a string like that, you have to cover more ground, and that takes time. It's a tiny amount of time, but it still takes more time than staying on the same string. And so you will notice a tiny lag that happens when he's skipping the strings. That's something that you would not even notice if it was in the context of a recording, with rhythm guitar and drums going on. You would never even hear it. You can only hear it if you're listening to guitar by itself. I don't think that that's a mistake. Like I said, I think that's the reality of string skipping. You have to move a distance and it takes time. If this was faked, there's no way that that lag would have been there. One of the ways that you can spot that shit isn't real is when things that, I don't want to say trip up, but things that even the best guitar players in the world have to contend with, like distance over time, when that stuff gets erased, like made into not even an issue to where everything is equal spacing, then you got to wonder if the person actually played it or if it was done note by note or whatever. All right, I want to close out this list with Brandon Ellis. And I need to say that in no way is this list conclusive. I didn't want this video to be 7 hours long. It could be 7 hours long. But I wanted to conclude this with Brandon Ellis. I wanted one person who's known for being in really, really sick bands. He was in Black Dahlia Murder for a while. I know he's been touring with Cannibal Corpse. I'm pretty sure he played with Exodus as well. He was an Osiris. He's been around, and he's always been seen as this kind of prodigy. He's been around long enough to where he's no longer prodigy age, but that's the way people considered him when he came on the scene. And I've always thought that even though he's a phenomenal shredder, his phrasing and his vibrato is best in class, basically. I think this is a solo off of the most recent Black Dahlia record that he was on. Amazing note choice, like I was saying, amazing vibrato, amazing tone. And yeah, he is one of those guys who can say something with very few notes. It's because he developed those techniques that those very few note players are really, really great at, like bending and vibrato, but he can do so much more than that. What I really appreciate about his solos is that they have that old school thing of being written like a piece. Like there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. There's a payoff, there's tension, there's release. It's not just some dude spitting out insane guitar playing. It is insane guitar playing, but that's secondary to the fact that it's really cool guitar playing. All right, so that's it with my list of guitar players. Like I said, the list is not conclusive and it's not a best to very best. It's just 10 people that I picked that I felt were very, very relevant to the point I was making. And what this proves, I think, is that the bar has moved. And it didn't move because people suddenly have more soul or less soul. It moved because the tools changed and the information changed. This generation grew up hearing records that were edited to perfection and didn't know they were edited. So that level of tightness became normal. Then they trained until it was real. And now the average kid on Instagram is playing at a level that would have been considered freak level 20 years ago. Now, I feel like this needs to be said. In no way, shape, or form does this invalidate the past. Great music is timeless. Expression is timeless. But nowadays, the technical standard is just higher, and that's not something to complain about or be scared of. It's a challenge to rise to. When you see players like this up close and personal, it resets what your idea of good is. I think the bar is higher, and I gotta say, I think that's good. All right, if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe. Tell me who your favorite modern guitar player is in the comments, and have fun arguing. See you next time.